Welcome to our €23,000 Italian lake house.
This isn't just a creative project. This is our only home. It's a race against the cold, and we are running out of time. Finishing before winter comes is a necessity. We thought we were buying a house. We bought a challenge. We've run out of budget, so now we're doing what we can with what we have. I hope we haven't bitten off more than we can chew. So my husband and I bought a house in a small town in Italy in 2020. We moved here full-time in 2023, so we've been here for about 2.5 years. And people often ask us, sort of what are the pros and cons of living in Italy as opposed to back in the United States or back in the UK. I'm from Chicago in the United States, and my husband is from London. Let's start with the things I love about living in Italy. One is the healthcare. With the taxes that I already pay, I have access to free, high-quality healthcare. So every time I go to the doctor, it's completely free. If she needs to write me a prescription, I do pay a small amount of money for filling a prescription, but it's nothing prohibitive. I don't think I've ever paid more than maybe €20. Emergency hospital visits are free and very high quality. The doctors here are great. We have a great hospital here on the lake that we have had to use a couple of times and have always had really great experiences. Alternatively, when I was in Chicago, I didn't have health insurance. I remember one time I was in my apartment in Chicago and I had this really sharp, debilitating pain in my stomach and being so scared to go to the hospital because I knew it would be expensive and just debating in my mind of like, can I just ride this out? Like, maybe this is nothing. Maybe it's an ovarian cyst rupturing, or maybe it's my appendix rupturing. And if it's my appendix rupturing, then I'm in trouble and I really need to go. And then ultimately I remember making the decision to go to the hospital, but I took a taxi instead of an ambulance because it would be cheaper. Going to the hospital and penny pinching in the hospital. You know, they went to put an IV in me and I said, "What's that for?" And she said, "Well, for hydration." And I said, "I'll have a cup of water." Because I know that IV is going to cost me a lot of money and a cup of water is going to be free, which is just crazy to think about now that as someone who was working 2 jobs, you know, paying taxes, paying my bills, that I, in an emergency moment, was too scared to get help because I didn't know if it would be, you know, how financially detrimental it would be to me. So here, just not having to worry about that, having my tessera sanitaria, having my health card here, like that is worth more than gold to me. I will do everything in my power to stay here in this country for that alone, to know that I don't have to worry about medical expenses. Yeah, that's one of the biggest pros for me living in Italy. Another, I'm a teacher. I've never had to do an active shooter drill. You know, it's a very safe country. Gun violence isn't really a thing here. I feel very safe. You know, no country is perfectly safe, of course, you know, especially as a woman, you got to keep your wits about you, but overall I feel incredibly safe here. The quality and affordability of food far surpasses anywhere I've lived before. At every weekly market, you've got lots of fresh fruit stands, fresh vegetables. You've got the 0 kilometers markets where it's all food that was grown locally and in season, and it's all affordable, which is huge, that people can afford to eat well on a normal budget and not have to spend loads of money to go to a specialty market to get fresh organic vegetables, right? You can get that much more easily here. That's a huge thing about living here. The respect for work-life balance is something that Italians do very well. No one's emailing you after hours. Nobody's calling you on the weekend about work. Like an acquaintance of mine once said that, you know, back home, people almost take pride in waking up at 5 a.m. to answer their emails, you know? Where here it's much more relaxed. It's much more a respect for your life outside of work. As far as public transportation is much better here. Even though where we live specifically, it's much more convenient to have a car. I get around fine without one. You know, it does mean my days are a bit longer because I'm waiting for trains and buses, but I wouldn't be able to do this in the town I grew up in the United States. There is no public transportation. You have a car or you don't leave your house. There are no options. So that's another big draw. Even in a small town like I live in, there's, you know, trains coming through every hour. Italy's very community oriented. And I think some of that probably comes down to the fact that we live in a small town. I'm sure I wouldn't have the same experience, you know, in the heart of Milan, but people here look after each other. There's a lot of community events. There's a lot of knowing your neighbors, offering things to your neighbors. You know, we've been you know, when we first moved to our village, it was completely normal for us to come home and find a bag of vegetables left at our doorstep that somebody had grown in their garden and they just had too much, so they were just dropping some off for us, you know. It's little things like that that I never experienced before, even when I did live in a smaller town in the United States. It's this sense of unity, of community, of looking after each other, of building an environment that looks after each other. Things that would be easier or preferable back in the States, there's not a lot really, I would say. Obviously you can earn more, like salaries are higher in the United States, but the cost of living is also much higher. So I don't feel like it makes that much of a difference. If you're making, you know, 100 grand a year, but your cost of living exceeds that, what does it matter if you're earning a high salary, right? We're here, if you're bringing home 1,600 euros a month, like you're living well. You can live a good life on that. I'd say bureaucracy, of course, is very difficult in Italy. There's always so much paperwork for everything. If you open a bank account here, it's maybe 30 signatures you have to write, but you know, you get used to it. But digitization of services in the United States is definitely something that they have done. They're more advanced on, as far more ahead of the game, I'd say, compared to Italy. We are actively renovating our house right now, so if you want to see any of our renovation content, check out our other videos here on YouTube or over on Instagram and TikTok. Before I forget, and before we say goodbye, if you're dreaming of doing exactly what we're doing and you want to buy a property here in Italy, every month we send out a special newsletter with a curated selection of properties for sale under 100K. Some are fixer-uppers, while others are move-in ready. To get access, you can join us over on Patreon for just $5 a month. You'll also get early access to every video and all the behind the scenes of our journey. Your support literally helps us finish our home. If you have any other questions about life in Italy, leave them in the comments and I'd be happy to answer some more.